Welcome to Be Customer Led, where we'll explore how leading experts in customer and employee experience are navigating organizations through their own journey to be customer led, and the actions and behaviors employees and businesses exhibit to get there. And now your host, Marbu Brown.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to announce that Be Customer Led is back. It's a little different face in terms of your host, but just like Bill Stakos, I'm super passionate about customer experience, and I'm looking forward to bringing you the most exciting guests who are going to be able to help us elevate our game in the customer experience discipline. Today, we have an exciting guest with us, David Edelman, who is a Harvard Business School fellow. David's going to be talking to us about personalized customer strategy in the age of AI. It's just released, and it's got some great insights for us. Looking forward to having a stimulating conversation with Dave today. Dave, welcome to the show.
Terrific to be here, Marbu.
Yes, and you know, one of the things that we always like to do is to have our guests give the listeners a background about their career journey and how they got to what they're doing now. So why don't you get us started by telling us a little bit about your journey and how you got to what you're doing today?
Sure. So believe it or not, I'm going to age myself. In 1989, before the internet, actually, I was a young consultant at the Boston Consulting Group. I had just gotten out of business school, and I had 3 clients in a row ask questions about what they should do with customer information that they were starting to collect. And I felt, there's going to be more of this. We helped them build a loyalty program, target some of their advertising, and I felt there was more. So did some more research and then wrote an article called Segment of One Marketing. And that just rocketed out there. BCG published it. It got picked up by a lot of different publications. I was invited to speak at conferences, got client work, and then that became essentially the through line for my career going forward. So then the internet happened, and we started to work with clients on what should they do online in the first place. And then I got closer to the rock face. I was part of a team that started Digitas, which is now part of Publicis, digital agency, where I led the strategy and analytics team in working with companies like American Express, SAP, Delta, really getting their core digital capabilities in place at the start of things. Then I moved on to lead a digital marketing strategy practice at McKinsey, where I worked less about the websites itself, but more on the broader organization changes, how operations should be revised, how funding should flow, should they have central resources or not, core things about the broader transformation to be digitally led. And then to put it into practice, I became chief marketing officer at Aetna, a health insurance company that was going through a huge transformation, especially to become much more personalized, which is what healthcare needed to be. After the CVS merger with Aetna, I moved on, and now I do a combination of executive advisory work. I teach at the Harvard Business School, and I've written this book. I do some advisory work with BCG as well, and so I'm back working with them. But all of this now has been around all the work I do around digital and now AI-led transformation, and the capabilities now of what you can do in order to deliver personalization have just advanced so much. It seemed like the right time to write a book. And I think you're going to ask me about that, actually.
Hey, but the next thing I was going to ask you is, why are you so passionate about personalization? And
Sure.
And you partially answered that when you started talking about that whole notion of the segment of one, right? I think that's kind of what got you started down this path of really focusing on personalization. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? Why are you so passionate about
Yeah,
personalization?
sure. Because I have always felt that personalization should be more than just simply a marketing tactic. In the early days, most of the way people were using customer information was actually in a negative sense. Who should I not target? Who should I target? I have a campaign, I have a product. Who should I sell it to? And it was very elimination oriented to focus and be more efficient. And then gradually capabilities like putting your name in, tailoring the content a little became common. Now, however, it's clear that personalization should really be about the customer experience. It should be about how you compete based on the way you're using customer information to deliver more value to a customer. And we see it in the brands that we're doing more and more business with, especially digital brands, Netflix, Spotify, Uber. So much of the value that we get is because of the way they use information. But now other brands, companies, not just brand B2B companies as well, are starting to realize that there is a big opportunity here. And at the same time, though, all of these capabilities allow companies to do what I would call manipulative personalization. They know you were on the website, and so they bombard you with crap. And here's a simple example. I recently moved, and when we moved, we decided to upgrade our coffee to a Nespresso machine. So we get this Nespresso machine, and it comes with 100 pods to start. Within 2 days, I am getting bombarded from Nespresso with offers every single day to buy more pods. I already have 100 pods. How much coffee do we drink? It's just insane. And then by the second week, they're already trying to pitch me another machine. Like, why would I need more machines? If they thought I was a small business, I could understand that. But it's very clear my address is residential, and they should have been able to figure that out. And frankly, they could have just asked. I've unsubscribed because I'm tired of getting bombarded. If I need more pods, I'll go online and get them. But what they should have done, the personalization thing, would have been 2 days after I get the machine, ask me, how do I like it? Do I know, am I comfortable using it? What flavors am I starting to like? Did I know that I can make ice drinks with it? That's what they should have done, is started to get me engaged with it in a more positive, get more zero-party data, just ask me questions. But no, they just bombarded me. And so Gen AI makes it so much easier to create the content, find these people and bombard them. We have to avoid that. And so my question is two-sided. One is the opportunity is great, but the downsides are great too. So we've got to navigate it appropriately.
Well, it's interesting because what you described just now is a lot of people think of personalization as a way to increase revenues. They think about it in that aspect. But like you said, the real opportunity here is in terms of improving the customer experience, right? And frankly, if they do a great job at that, the dollars will flow, right? I'm just thinking, when you think in terms of personalization, think about it as a way that the companies can supercharge their customer experience. Like, what are some ways that they can use personalization from a customer experience perspective to supercharge their experience? What would give them a bump?
Yeah, well, one company that maybe got too much of a bump is Starbucks. So a few years ago, Howard Schultz, in his investor conference, actually said he wanted Starbucks to be the most personalized brand in the world. He said personalization is what's going to fuel our growth. So one of the big investments they made was in the app. And when you open a Starbucks app, it knows who you are. It knows where you are. Are you on your way to work? Are you in a place where you aren't normally? Might you be traveling? What time of day is it? Okay, what do you tend to order at different times of day? Do you tend to order things in promotion? Do you tend to order food? If so, what food? And so it can suggest to you the exact thing that you would likely want. So with one touch, you order it and it's going to be ready for you. And that has led to, well over 40% of Starbucks orders coming through the phone. Now that has created a challenge, created a lot of growth for a while, created a backlog in their stores because operationally it just overwhelmed the stores. And so that's been a big part of Starbucks challenges. But nonetheless, it drove growth. It got people addicted to that app because of the simplicity of how it helped you navigate what had actually gotten kind of complex. How do I order at Starbucks? And just made it dramatically simpler.
Now, that gave them a bump in terms of revenues, but I'm thinking about a bump in terms of customer experience. Can you give examples of how people have used personalization in the experience side to kind of give them a bump in the customer experience, right? Sometimes people just want like a jolt and to move the needle quickly on customer experience. What about in that space? How have people been able to do that?
Yeah. So let me give you an example from when I was chief marketing officer at Aetna. One of the challenges coming in as the first chief marketing officer for a health insurance company is that you realize people don't like health insurance companies. It's confusing. Health insurance is very confusing. People don't understand quite a lot about it. And that leads to problems. Besides just simply resentment, people call into the call center because they go out of network. They see charges that they don't understand. And the problem is the product itself is very hard to fix because employers are involved, the government's involved. There's a lot of restrictions. Hard to make that product simpler. So what we realized is that we had to educate people. When you first get your health insurance, you usually get a folder or you get an email with just a lot of text in it. And it's bureaucratic kind of sounding text. Do you really read it? Do you really understand it? We found most people don't read it and they don't understand it. In fact, only 8% of people could accurately answer questions about their health insurance. So we decided onboarding is going to be an important part of the experience. And so new Aetna members, we figured out, should get a video explaining their health plan to them because we thought that would make it more engaging. Then we realized, but everybody's health plan is slightly different. So you have different people in your family covered. You've decided on a different product. Your employer has certain issues. So we had to create personalized videos. We found a supplier called Sunday Sky, and we used Sunday Sky to create for every member when they come on board, a personalized video. So it says, Marbu, these are the people who in your family is covered. Oh, your wife doesn't have a primary care physician. Here's 3 in your area who are taking new patients. Click here to schedule. Here's also 3 urgent care centers near you, so you don't have to go to the emergency room for a whole lot of things. Here's the economics of your plan. Here's how you can make decisions to save money. The video was a total home run. 70% of people watched the 3.5-minute video. Calls to the call center went down by over 20%.
Wow.
People started opening our emails more because they trusted us. And Net Promoter Score went from negative to positive. So all the health insurance companies were negative.
That's a big deal.
Yes.
It's a big bump. And I mean, I think about all of those kinds of things where, we had talked a little bit earlier about how if you get it right, the dollars will come. And I think about your call center calls going down by 20%. That's adding money to your bottom line because you have less cost there. people opening your emails because they trust you. There's so many great things that happen there. And of course, the validation of that, you saw that in your net promoter score converting from negative to positive. So huge deal. Sounds like it's a great bump. So, it's interesting because I think of some of the things that you said about, hey, how sometimes people are using personalization in a wrong way and they're spewing out crap for people. And then you give this great example of people using personalization in the right way. And I'm thinking about the book that you recently co-authored with Mark Abraham. We mentioned the name before, Personalized Customer Strategy in the Age of AI. I want to ask you, what was your motivation for writing the book? I think I can guess a little bit by some of the things we've talked about already, but why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that?
So the reason we wrote the book is because with today's AI capabilities, you can deliver personalization that can really drive value by providing customers with better experiences that can enable growth. Or you can use it to bombard and manipulate them. We wanted to take the first path and really explain why that makes a lot of sense from a strategic and from a financial point of view, and what it takes to make it happen. We did research on 200 companies and how they were progressing or not towards a personalization objective. We looked at their financials. We found that those who were more advanced in delivering personalization grew 10% faster than the laggards in their sector. We found that it wasn't just that certain sectors were better than others. It was within sectors, there were leaders and laggards. And the only place where there were significant challenges is in consumer packaged goods, because they don't have much in the way of first-party data. So that's a lot more of a challenge for them. But we saw the opportunity to provide the stories and examples and the learning and elevate personalization from just a marketing buzzword to a corporate level strategy, because companies who are doing this, it takes a village. It's not just a marketing thing, because it is about customer experience.
So you guys did this empirically. Is this where you put together the Personalization Index? Is that, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we actually graded companies based on both their capabilities to deliver personalization and the experience that customers actually saw. So we did surveys of their customers. We also did mystery shopping. We did a lot of assessment of internal data management and operations capabilities. And we looked at 5 different dimensions, and we called these the 5 promises of personalization. The first is empowering your customers. This is the most important. Are you providing an experience that enables your customers to do something they couldn't do before that is uniquely valuable because of how you're using information? So you're enabling them to order faster, discover new music that they might be interested in, new capabilities that they didn't have before. Second is, how well do you know your customers? Are you capturing information appropriately about them? Are you bringing together information from different parts of your business to get a full context? Then once you know your customers, how are you reaching them? Are you bombarding them the way Nespresso bombarded me? Or are you thinking about the appropriate way to reach out, such as with Aetna, when we did it during onboarding? That's a time when you'd be open to learning. Let's get you an email with a link to a personalized video. So empower them, know them, reach them, then show them. Give them an experience that brings that personalization to life. And a personalized video is a perfect example of that. And then delight them by testing and learning, capturing more information that allows you to get better and better over time. And a simple thing is the way Spotify tracks what you listen to and what you don't. thumbs up, thumbs down on Netflix. Those are simple ways that they're getting feedback about what works and what doesn't. And the leaders are running hundreds of experiments every week. They are getting all kinds of data to feed their AI so they can be more precise about what Marbu would want versus Dave. So those 5 dimensions, empower, know, reach, show, and delight, created the basis for the index. And so we looked at what capabilities and what actual activities were companies doing. And that's how we came up with the concept of leaders versus laggards. And when you correlate that with financials, the leaders grow faster and have higher shareholder returns.
I can guess who are some of the companies that you actually like that are doing this well, but who's knocking it out of the park in terms of, doing, personalization the right way that's enhancing the customer experience?
Yeah. So let me give you just one, a simple example, which is Sephora from a retail perspective. And I'll give you a before and after, and it shows how it's really unlocked growth. Most retailers have separate category managers who are in charge of different departments. And in the case of Sephora, they have people in charge of hair versus skincare versus other parts. And each one of those were hitting customers with different promotions. And the promotions were also not coordinated in terms of whether you encountered them online, on your mobile device, in an email, in the store. And so consumers were just confused with what they were really entitled to in terms of offers, and the response rate and the redemption rates were not that great. So they decided they had to step up. And so they actually put somebody in, and she's in charge of the whole infrastructure for delivering personalized experiences. They created a single backbone of all of the data. They created guidelines about which things should be promoted to whom. And so they actually prioritized across categories by customer, depending on what they thought she would be most interested in. And then the most important thing was they created a common backbone across channels so that you would see the same offer, mobile versus desktop versus text versus in the loyalty program versus if you actually talked to someone in a store and they pulled you up on their iPad. And that coordination has changed everything. It has gotten much higher engagement in their loyalty programs, much higher response rates. And they're actually seeing this now not only as a trigger for better growth, but it's also helping the brands that sell through them. And they're using that as a way to help the brands who sell through them understand the greater potential Sephora has as a retail partner because of the impact of personalization.
That sounds great. I mean, nothing's more frustrating to the customer than basically even possibly getting conflicting offers, right? All coming from the same company, but coming through in different channels and whatnot. And, that would be super, super frustrating. So, it's interesting, just like you all have put together the book and you've got all the empirical evidence supporting it and everything like that. A couple of years ago, I released my own book called Blueprint for Customer Obsession. I looked at, what are the things that differentiate the companies that are iconic customer obsessed companies from their peers that are either, customer focused or customer centric. And one of those principles was the whole notion of those companies engage personally, right? So, you've talked about the benefits and how, those 5 items that you described, how they help to separate the leaders from the laggards. Well, if a company wants to move up, the index, if you will, what are some things that you would tell them that they need to go do? Some of the quick things that they need to begin to do to get themselves to move up that ladder.
Yeah, I think there's 2 levels of things. One is just kind of fixing compromises, and the other is unlocking new opportunities. So one of the first things, if you look, for example, at what we did at Aetna, there was a compromise that customers faced. They were spending a lot of money on a health insurance product that they didn't understand. And so therefore, they were making decisions that were not going to be in their own best interest. And that's a compromise that people are facing. So the first thing I would say is really put on the customer lens, look at the customer journey, not just as they're working with you, but in your category overall, and say, where are the compromises where customers are not really able to do what they want? And so there are consequences that are happening. How can you address those? And how can you bring customer information to bear in making that solution more personalized? Is it because ordering from you is too confusing? There's just too many options. And so customers just do something that, may not be the thing they really want because it's too confusing and takes too much time. And so now you're making it dramatically easier. So first is really understand where there are compromises you can break.
May I just mention something? Because you just triggered a thought for me, how sometimes in corporate environments, people dealing with their IT departments, they have a problem. They get a hold of IT and IT says it's a known problem, but the solution to that problem is years out. So what do people do? They figure out workarounds. And the workarounds are the things that they don't really want to do, but they have to do because business has to go on. And that's kind of like the scenario you're talking about with customers where they have these compromises. They're not happy. They don't want to do that. It's not a great experience, but they're forced to do it. And I hear you saying with personalization, if you solve those compromises, you're going to change the game for them. So love that. Continue. You were about to get to the next point there. So tell me about the other part.
Sure. So the other part is, one is fixing, breaking compromises. The other is unlocking new opportunities for your customers. So let me give you an example there. Cisco is the food delivery company. So distribution of everything for restaurants, not just food, but even napkins and all kinds of things for restaurants. And one of the things they know when you open the Cisco app, it is just like Starbucks. They know who you are as a buyer for a restaurant. They know where you are. They know your menu, your price points, whether you buy in bulk or not. And they have an understanding of the geography in which you operate. They also know which warehouse serves you. And if that warehouse has too much of something, because it's food, too much of something, they want to move. And so they want to discount it and move it. Well, one of the things they realize is that for a lot of restaurants, they may not serve the thing that you want to move. It may not fit with their menus. So what they would do, if they realize that, is give you menu suggestions and say, here's something you could make that would seemingly fit with your diners, with your price point. Here's the recipe. Here's the core thing that we've got on discount. If you need these other things to go with it, we can sell that too. And so buyers actually discover new things that fit with them.
Yeah.
We interviewed buyers who use the Cisco app, and they said it's a no-brainer using the app because it makes it so easy to buy. They're incredibly busy. They feel like they're getting good deals, and they're discovering new things. And over the last 3 years, Cisco has grown at a 50% faster rate than their competition.
Wow. And for those out there, just to be clear, we're talking about SYSCO, Cisco, CISCO, the networking company, right? It's the food folks, not the networking folks, right? So Dave, we've gone through quite a lot here, and we're getting close to the end of our time together. But I want to ask you, one of the things we always want to ask is, for my next guest that comes on the program, what would be one question that you would want me to ask them. So if you're listening in, you'd be listening for that question. What should I ask?
You should ask, what is a compromise that they face in dealing with some brand that they regularly encounter that they wish could just go away? What compromise could be eliminated? What's something that just totally frustrates them with a company who they kind of have to do business with? And, what do they think it would take to do that?
I love that question. I'm going to make sure to ask it because, there are some things that are actually telltale signs that people have challenges in their business. And that type of compromise, I think, is a great example and, something that businesses should be watching out for. So a couple of things for us to wrap up. What's the best way? I mean, if people want to continue this conversation with you, it's been a stimulating conversation. A lot of great information, nuggets that people can take away and use right away. What's the best way for them to connect with you to continue the conversation?
Sure. The easiest way is on LinkedIn. I have a very active presence on LinkedIn. I'm posting all the time. I have well over 1 million followers. I have a weekly newsletter. You can send me messages on LinkedIn, and I'm very active there. And then we can just figure out where you want to take a conversation.
Great. So, folks, make sure to catch up with Dave on LinkedIn. Other thing I want to ask you is about the book, right? There are a few more words about the book, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way, of course, to get the book is on Amazon. There's the physical version, there's the Kindle version, there's an audio version. It's funny, they wouldn't let me voice the audio version. I asked, and they said,
you've got a radio voice.
I know, they say, but I'm not a professional book reader. So they wouldn't let me do it. But nonetheless, you can get all of it on Amazon. It is on USA Today, their business bestseller number 4. So we are a bestseller. We're already on our second printing. We sold out the first printing. So the book's getting terrific traction. And, lots of interest in companies who are seeing this as not just a marketing, but a broader opportunity. And in fact, one of the chapters that I've gotten a lot of feedback about is where we go through the executive suite and all the different roles. So not just CEO, but CFO, CIO, general counsel, because there's a lot of data issues. What are the roles with examples that we have for every role going across the C-suite to collaborate to make personalization possible? So I'm getting the feedback that that's one of a chapter that really resonates in the book.
Cool. Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show the book so people can see what it looks like. They can go to Amazon and they can find the book and get a copy of it. I highly recommend that they do. And again, Dave, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Be Customer Led. And hey, we're going to continue the conversation, even if not here, in other forums. Thanks again. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you, Marbu.
Thanks for listening to Be Customer Led with Marbu Brown. We are grateful to our audience for the gift of their time. Be sure to visit us at becustomerled.com for more episodes. Leave us feedback on how we're doing or tell us what you want to hear more about. Until next time, we're out.